Hello, my name's Tim Kenny from Tim Kenny Surveying, and in this video I want to kind of cover a principle. Actually, I want to cover two principles which I think are really important, but I'm going to use one as an example and to lead us into the second principle. First principle is about inspection routines. Right? You've probably heard or been told the theory that you should not overstep your level of inspection at property. So if you are instructed to carry out a level 2 survey, you should strictly carry out the inspection required for a level 2 survey. You should not at no point go over and above that, because if you do, you create an additional liability for yourself. Right? And probably the best way to explain this is with an example. So let's take the example of you're at a property, really good standard property for a level 2. So no doubt in that at all. It is a level 2 type property. It is not old, it's not unusual, it's not in a poor state of repair or whatever. Your client doesn't want a level 3. It's just a level 2. Fine. Happy with that. Going around, you're doing inspection, you're carrying out the standard routine for a level 2 inspection, and you find an area of damp. Right? You find an area of damp to a ground floor wall. You've got high readings, you've got stainings, you've got the whole thing. Right? Now, of course, we know that if we have damp to the base of a ground floor wall, there's a good chance there's going to be damp to the nearby section of floor, right? Because they are connected. We have two elements that are connected. If one's getting wet, the other one's probably getting wet as well. It could well be that the damp is coming from the floor, or it could be the wall is coming from the damp is coming from the wall and affecting the floor. Either way, they are connected. So understanding what's going on under the floor, or at least to the floor, is a really useful starting point. So we found our area of damp. And we're looking around, we've taken all the readings we can take, we've looked outside and all the important things we need to do. And we noticed that the carpet nearby is loose. It's a section of carpet, it's not properly fitted. You could pull that up and you could put it down without causing any additional damage. It is what it is. So the argument is that you should not lift that floor, because if you lift that floor, you create a responsibility to carry out effectively a level 3 inspection to the whole building, because lifting floor covers is level 3. Level 2, you don't lift them, right? Because if you then don't find a defect that you would have otherwise found on a level 3 inspection, you become liable for it. So for example, if you don't then observe all the services in normal operation, and there is a defect to one of those services that you would have identified through that observation, and a client finds it, they can make a claim against you. Right? And a court will go, oh, you did that one, you did level 3 there, you should have done level 3 there. Right? That's the principle. So it increases this liability. My problem with that is there's no case law to back it up. I've looked into this one, I've spoken to some experts on this, I've really looked into it, and I can't find anything to back that principle up. It's never been tested in a court, as far as I can tell, or if it has, it's not been tested in a way that's been reported in an accessible manner. Right? There are principles around how we report. If we drift into providing advice where that is not part of the instruction, that increases our liability and increases how damages can be quantified in a claim. But there isn't the same principle, or the same principle hasn't been proven and supported in relation to inspections. Okay, so we just have this idea. It's not supported by the standards, it's not supported by case law, it's not supported by anything else. It's just an opinion that seems to have just drifted out into the profession, right? And it's effectively being stated as definitive. We all know that the statement of facts, we should separate our facts from our opinions. We should not state opinions as fact. But it has one of those opinions that has become fact because it has been restated so often. And in my opinion, just not a fact, just an opinion, that fact is wrong. Because firstly, it doesn't have anything to support it. And secondly, it goes against the principle of following the trail. So we know that if we see a defect as a competent surveyor, we should follow the trail to the fullest extent possible to identify the cause of that defect, cause and extent of that defect. So not lifting that carpet is not following the trail, right? Just doing more damp meter readings and having a good look around, that's not following the trail. That's just carrying out the inspection that you're supposed to be carrying out. Following the trail is digging a little deeper and lifting the carpet. Okay? And just because we follow the trail in one area doesn't mean we have to follow the trail where we don't see one, right? So the principle is we followed the trail because we saw a problem. We identified a defect or a possible defect, and we followed the trail. In this case, the possible defect is damp to the floor. So we follow the trail to find out if there is damp to the floor. if there is no trail to follow with any other area, we don't have to go over and above the inspection routine. We're under no obligation to do that. A court would not go, oh yeah, you should have gone further there. And if they did, you just go, well, look, I didn't, because there was no trail to follow. You collect all the relevant information, you'd be able to prove there was nothing for you to see that meant you needed to go further. Right? So this is just a principle, as I said, that's just generated from somewhere, being repeated as fact. I say I've had it from perfectly eminent surveyors, and I'm not criticising them as people, but it's just a fact that they've stated out. I've seen it from students quite a bit. Particularly students have gone out with mentors and they say, oh no, you don't look out that first floor window at that flat roof because that's going over and above your inspection routine. Of course, it's just after. You would look out that window. The right thing to do is look out that window. Failing to look out that window and finding a defect that would be shown from looking out that window is a professional negligence issue, and you would get a claim on it. So we should not be going over and above. We should be following the trail. Is actually what we're doing, right? And this principle is important itself, something we should consider and understand and really, really think about and think about this individual principle. But it also says a lot for how ideas can permeate our profession without ever really being challenged. And I think it's partly because we as professionals tend to forget a really important academic principle, maybe when we move into our working life. And that is this idea of critically analysing your sources, right? Again, anybody who's had a university education, certainly we teach it to building surveying students, but it's kind of applicable to all university education, is that you should be thinking more than just, okay, I'm telling you this, you accept it as fact and then repeat it out. What happens is you're told to think and to analyse all the sources, get in the information, compare one source to another, and make a judgment as to which source is most applicable or has better authority, and therefore is more applicable for you to use in the situation that you're talking about. Okay, and effectively, there's a hierarchy of sources. You know, I'd put at the very bottom blog post written by somebody with no name, right? And you see these just on websites nowadays. They're all AI generated. No one's name on it, right? You've got nobody you can say, oh yeah, that person wrote it. I understand their background, their position, their authority or competency to provide information. Then you can kind of move up through blog posts produced by people that have something to sell, effectively. So product suppliers, service providers, anybody like that who's selling their product, and their blog post will be around selling their product. Now, these can be useful. They can give you good information, but of course they are not impartial. They are by definition partial. They will be telling you how good their product is, their service is. They will be looking at things from the point of view of somebody who is wanting you to use a particular method to resolve an issue, for example, usually a particular product. Then, of course, above that, we've got articles, blog posts, and videos like this one, produced by professionals and named individuals, right, who have a level of credibility to some extent. But of course, that level of credibility will vary, and we as professionals relying on those sources should consider the credibility of those individuals providing it. So I'm just a surveyor, I'm a trainer and a university lecturer and what have you. I feel I have a reasonable level of credibility to offer an opinion. But as I said, it's just opinion. It's open for challenge. If someone can prove me wrong, for example, provide me a case around inspection routines, I'd love to see it. Please send it to me. Put it in the comments. Send me an email. I really would like to see it. I'm not kind of definitive on it. I'm just saying there's no evidence to prove it. And if someone can provide the evidence, that's great. And I'll change my mind. Right? And this video would then become uncredible, incredible, not non-credible, a non-credible source. Right? And it could be ignored, and I would happily say that, and I'd delete the video. I could if I get proved wrong. So the same applies to anything else you're told by a fellow professional, whether that be in the context of a YouTube video, an article, mentoring. As I said, I've spoken to students who have been given what I feel is inappropriate advice or opinion from mentors, for example, or you only need to open in one inspection chamber. Property. There might be 6 inspection chambers, but you only open one. There's nothing to back that up. Not backed up by the standards. It's not good, right? So you as a student should be looking at the individual standards, comparing what they're telling you to the standards, which are probably our next kind of category of source. Above opinion of professionals, we have the standards. you know, some of the RICS home survey standards, the RICS retrofit standards, the RICS AI standard that's just come out. This is certainly much more definitive than any opinion of a surveyor. You know, our opinion sits down here. The standards are up here somewhere. They are produced by our governing bodies, our regulating bodies, whatever that may well be. They are the standards that the first thing a court will look at and say, okay, well, look, you know, what does this say? And you can you can choose to not follow them in certain situations or not follow the best guidance they provide, but you're going to have to work damn hard to explain why you didn't. You'd have to be quoting other really credible sources to prove why you didn't. So they have that real kind of high level, and we kind of put those above any opinion being offered by any one individual. And then, of course, we can then go above that to kind of government-backed standards and regulation and all of these things, building standards and case law and statute and everything else, right? That's kind of sitting above there. And of course, we can then also look at, I said, the case law, which is the interpretation of that government-backed standards or that law and everything else, right? That's they're kind of sitting up there as our top tier. Again, we can kind of there is a hierarchy into that, but we're getting really kind of nuanced stuff. We could be talking for hours about this. But the most important, the principle I really want to get across to you is obviously to think about that first principle and whether it really applies, whether the limitations of our inspection are what we think they should be. But also this idea of challenge the sources, right? Critically think about them, analyze them. Does this source fit with what else I'm seeing? Okay, yes, that person's told me something, but what about that source over there? Does it match? And of those two sources, which one is the most credible, right? Make that judgment for yourself and start to understand that. Don't just accept what you're being told. I say, don't just accept this video, any video I make, any video anybody else makes, any article. Think about who's providing it. Think about what their level of credibility is. Challenge it as best you can. Look up any sources they reference and go back to say, actually, you know what, does this source actually say that? You know, if someone tells you the home survey standards say this, go and look at the home survey standards. If you're a good surveyor, you should know it anyway. Go and look at it. Hey, does it say that? You know, is that right? If they're saying, oh, this case says this, we'll go and have a look at the case. Go and have a look at other opinion on that case. Does it actually say that? You know, do that work. Do that. Break it down and really find out that good information for yourself. Because at the end of the day, everything you do as a professional, you are responsible for, right? You can't just stand up and go, well, yeah, well, 6 years ago, my mate from that firm or this mentor that I had said I needed to do this, right? Because if they're wrong, it's your head on the line for it. Then they're not the one up in court. They're not the one with a claim against them. It's you that will have the claim. And the court will go, well, yeah, but you're a professional. You should have looked at you should have gone back to the primary source effectively and checked up what they were telling you. You know, you are responsible for it. You know, we say in the home survey standards, if you read it, it says the RICS regulated firm and the RICS member. It says that in a lot of places. And what that is saying is, you know what, don't just do what you're told. Go and have a look at this document and make sure you read it and understand it yourself and apply it directly yourself, your own understanding of it. And that might be informed and coloured by opinion and other sources, but it's that primary source that you need to understand. So I said, you know, think about your inspection routines and what following the trail actually means, but also think about your sources, think about where the information has come from, challenge anything that is just opinion that's offered to you without any kind of backing behind it, and generally you'll be a better surveyor. As I said, if you want to challenge my opinion, please do. I'm really happy to have the conversation. I want to be proved wrong. If it's something out there, I'll take it and I'll learn from it. But thank you very much.